I remember the moment I realized that love had a price tag in my family. I was 8 years old, clutching a homemade Mother's Day card covered in glitter and crayon hearts, certain that my parents would shower me with pride. Instead, my mother glanced up from her book, gave a polite nod, and went back to reading. My father didn't even look up, he simply grunted, "Thanks," and returned to the television. In that instant, the bright colors of my card felt as gray and cold as an empty room. I learned then that affection in my home came with conditions I could never meet. Every achievement became a trade-off. I brought home straight A's, trophies for spelling bees, ribbons for soccer, evidence of effort I hoped would earn emotional rewards. But the more I excelled, the more invisible I felt. At the dinner table, conversations revolved around grocery lists, bills, silent compliance. If I mentioned a compliment or success, my mother would say, "Don't let it go to your head." And my father would ask, "Did you get enough sleep?" Their questions felt like barriers, pushing me further away rather than drawing me closer. I began to believe that excellence was necessary just to be tolerated, not cherished. School became my refuge. In classrooms, I found pockets of warmth, teachers who offered praise, classmates who celebrated group wins. I craved those moments. I devoured every well done, every pat on the back. When a teacher asked me about my weekend projects or hobbies, my heart fluttered. Outside the school gates, I replayed every word, every glance, scanning it for hidden meaning, hoping to decode the mystery of genuine care. I didn't yet know the word emotional neglect, but I felt its emptiness in my chest, a hollow ache that no accolade could fill. Sleepovers at friends' houses were both thrilling and devastating. I watched their parents greet them with hugs at the door, tuck them in with bedtime stories, and kiss their foreheads goodnight. I lay awake listening to the rustle of blankets and soft whispers, imagining what it would feel like to be held just once. Sometimes I'd inch toward the edge of my parents' room, hoping to hear them call out, "Good night, sweetie." Silence greeted me instead. I pressed my ear to the door, willing the hinges to creak, but the only sound was my own ragged breathing. As I grew older, the patterns became clearer. My parents were competent, organized, and efficient. They never forgot appointments, always paid the bills on time, and kept our house immaculate. But emotions were messy and unpredictable. They treated family like a well-oiled machine in a room for loose parts. Love, to them, meant ensuring survival. Food on the table, clothes on our backs, grades that guaranteed success. But love in its softer form, shrugs, praise, open smiles, was foreign territory. By high school, I had perfected the art of self-reliance. I played every role in my household: caretaker for my brother when my mother worked late, organizer of chores when my father was away on business trips. I earned every privilege with unwavering precision, perfect grades, perfect behavior. Yet the moment I faltered, a lost assignment, a missed curfew, I faced criticism that cut deeper than any reprimand. My failures were magnified. My successes skimmed over. I wondered if my parents would ever understand that I needed more than rules and structure. I needed warmth. Then came my first heartbreak. At 16, I fell for a boy whose smile lit up the hallway. When I finally confessed my feelings under the bleachers, he smiled and took my hand. I rushed home, bursting to tell my parents. I spoke in breathless sentences about butterflies and blushes. My mother paused her knitting, frowned slightly, and said, "Just keep your focus on school." My father barely listened, answering, High school relationships are distractions. I felt a cold wave crash over me. I wondered if my capacity to love was too weak, or if my parents simply couldn't speak the language of the heart. College was a turning point. Away from the quiet void of home, I discovered dorm life full of noisy laughter, spontaneous study sessions, and midnight ice cream runs. Friends asked about my dreams, not my duties. Professors listened to my doubts, not my report cards. I studied psychology, chasing answers in textbooks that named the ache I carried: insecure attachment, conditional love. I realized my childhood hadn't just lacked hugs, it had programmed me to expect emptiness. I carried those lessons into every new relationship, dimming my own needs to fit the cold blueprint I'd been given. Therapy cracked open the emotional fortress I'd built. In a softly lit office, I learned to articulate the ache I'd silenced for years. I sobbed over the absence of affection, the countless celebrations without acknowledgement, the silence at every milestone. My therapist offered validation I'd never known. She didn't judge my parents, she simply said, "Your feelings matter." Those words fell, revolutionary. I carried them home in my heart like a new birthright. I practiced self-compassion with the dedication of a student learning a new language. I wrote letters to my younger self: "You are worthy of love. You matter." I taped them to my mirror, reading them aloud each morning. At first, the words tasted strange on my tongue, but over time, they became familiar and true. I learned that it was not selfish to crave warmth, it was human. When I became a parent, I vowed to break the cycle. I held my daughter close the moment she arrived. I whispered, "I'm so proud of you," and meant it with every fiber of my being. I kissed her scraped knees better than any antiseptic. I celebrated her every success with cheers that echoed off the walls. I told her, "I love you," more times in a day than I could count. I watched her eyes sparkle with the trust I'd built intentionally, so she'd never question her worth. Visiting my childhood home now is bittersweet. The walls still hold the echo of silence, the dinner table still set for mechanics rather than memories. My parents have aged, and their faces are softer, but their emotional distance remains. When I see them, I speak with courtesy, answer their practical questions, share my updates. I no longer expect them to wrap me in warmth they never learned. I pity them, not resent them. Their hearts remained untrained in the art of affection. I have built my own sanctuary. My fridge is strewn with my daughter's drawings. The walls are lined with family photos celebrating birthdays, graduations, and small victories, any excuse to gather and laugh. Friends know they can sit on my couch and cry, rant, or bask in shared triumphs. I host dinners filled with clinking glasses and warm hugs. I practice affection like a muscle, growing it stronger each day. If you grew up in a house where love was measured only by chores and grades, know this: your heart is not broken. You were simply never fed. You can learn to nourish it. Start with a whispered truth: "I deserve care." Follow with a kind gesture toward yourself, a moment of rest, a note of encouragement, a call to a friend. Then let someone in. Allow vulnerability to seep through the cracks. Over time, those moments will stitch a quilt of warmth that can heal even the deepest chill. If this story resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life journeys of survival and hope.